this episode of Philomedia.com, we are following my group, the Liberians for Black Lives Matter. We're here today at Smart Liberia, and we're going to be standing in solidarity with our brothers and sisters all over the world on Juneteenth. Stay tuned, it's going to be a good one.
It'll be thicker, and then you'll be able to see it from far away.
Okay. Breonna Taylor was shot 8 times and was an award-winning EMT while she was sleeping.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You all have to excuse me as I look out on you all today and just reflect on what's happening on the world. I'm overcome with emotion. Our ancestors and our posterity will indeed be proud.
For centuries, Black people have been victims of systemic discrimination, indifference, racial injustice, amongst others. For centuries, Black people have been lynched on and off camera with little or no justice. On May 25th, 2020, the world watched the gruesome killing of George Floyd, an act coupled with years of anger and frustration that have started protests all across America and other countries. Now, although the magnitudes have been different, Liberia is not exempt from prejudicial discrimination and injustice in different forms. And I'm excited that the organizers put this together so that we can begin the conversation. On behalf of Smart Liberia and all of our community of change makers, we want to say welcome to the Change Makers Village and happy Juneteenth. Thank you.
I imagine in 1863, when Lincoln freed the slaves by virtue of the Emancipation Proclamation, I imagine if those slaves were here today, they might say that this was the manifestation of their dream. A pan-African state, a place where only those of Negroid descent can own land. But it wasn't until 1865 that the last of the slaves in Texas were made aware that they were free. So I pose the question to you: when will we be free? And more importantly, when will we know?
Thank you all for being here. My name is Frida Quinton, and I'm going to read a statement of solidarity with the global Black Lives Matter protests that we published, members of the National Pan-Hellenic Council. If you are here, stand with me as I read this. The National Pan-Hellenic Council is composed of what is known as the Divine 9 organizations. These organizations are sororities and fraternities founded at Howard University, still in 2020. Recognizing the important place that our homeland of Liberia holds in the history and legacy of Black people on the continent, since its auspicious founding in 1847, and the legacy of our respective illustrious organizations in the history and movement of Black people worldwide. We, the select members of the Divine 9 organizations of the National Pan-Hellenic Council, would like to explicitly and outrightly express our utmost support for our Black brothers and sisters in the United States. We do this in recognition of the legacy of our brothers and sisters in the United States who have dedicated lives, blood, sweat, and tears, even when in shackles, to the edification and the betterment of that nation. To those who continue to battle the 400-year-old disease of racism and white supremacy that continue to relegate Black and brown bodies to unfair, unjust, and inhumane treatment.
From a mother's point of view, a mother who has gone through similar situation as George Floyd. However, my outcome was different because of God's grace. My son he had a fight. He was a 17-year-old boy, fought another kid. I live in Huntington Beach, California, which is mostly white. Fought a boy when he was 17 years old. They did not come to arrest him until he turned 18 years. The day he turned 18 was the day the cops show up at my house. And when I said because of God's divine grace, he happened not to have been at home. He was at work. Something I've never been exposed to, being born and raised in Liberia, even though we don't realize that there is law and order, but at the time there was good training and good upbringing. So I was not exposed to police. Now 12 policemen came to my house, surrounded my house, and knocked on the door. I looked around and I saw people hiding all behind my bedroom windows. I didn't know what that was, so I opened the door. When I opened the door, guns were pulled at me and my son, my other son. Thank God he wasn't at home, but my husband was there. And they asked, "Are you Giorgio Malongo?" They called my son's name, and I said, "No." And his dad came out and said, "But I am senior." And they said, "We're not looking for you, we're looking for your son." So if you've been in America, you know when the cops come in, they ransack your house, they pull everything because they think you're hiding your child. What did he do? They said, "We can't speak to that right now." So anyway, I called one of his dad's friends to go to his job and pick him up and take him to their home. So later, 2 days later, I now have to situate myself and prepare myself as a mother to be facing this situation in a country that I was not accustomed to their laws. However, thank God, I had been there for a while to know what's on the surface. So I had to find an attorney that now would talk to my son and be able to take my son to the court and present himself. Had they caught him there at my house, the outcome would have been different. But we don't know, so I thank God. But today I stand here to speak for every mother whose outcome was different from mine. For every wife whose outcome was different from mine. I share with all the other mothers, all the brothers and sisters who've lost their people's lives. And I'm glad to see that we as Liberians, once again, knowing our history, our link to America, that we stand today in solidarity to support our Black lives, our yellow lives, all lives in America. But mostly Black lives matter because if we don't stand up today for Black lives in wherever we are, we may not be standing for too long.
So we just wanted to talk to you all about how this whole thing started, how this came to fruition. And we started this thing as a way to hold space for our anger, our hurt, and our rage, all of our feelings. We wanted it to be a way to have a healing conversation.
We also hope that we'll continue to grow this into a way for Liberians who are for Black Lives Matter, right? For that movement to express themselves and move forward. It's the only way we can. It's important for us to remember that wherever we are in this planet, wherever we are, including and especially especially in Liberia, we must do all we can to accept and treat each other equally. It's going to be a pretty long moment of silence, and we chose this time specifically because it represents something so dear to us so recently, right? The police officer stood on George Floyd's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds.
It'll really give us an opportunity to feel how long that was.
Yeah.
We'll really get to feel how long a man sat and died in front of the world.
We're putting our fists up for George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Eric Garner, Trayvon Martin. I can't even tell you how many names. Too many. And for all of our brothers and sisters who have lost their lives, U.S., Liberia, Africa, for systemic racism. Thank you so much for being with us here today. Have a great day.